Hey, it's Jason. I'm here with my 100-gallon deep sea aquatics Reef Aquarium. This tank was started in July of 2014, and it is mainly an LPS Reef Aquarium, and I do not do any water changes. It is on the Triton method. I'm going to get a little bit closer to get this reflection out here in a moment. So as I mentioned, this is a deep sea aquatics 100-gallon tank. It has an ADHI Berlin 60-gallon sump. So I have 160 gallons of total volume. It was started with artificial rock in 2014, so the tank is over 6 years old. I have a Neptune Core 20 return pump. I also have two Ecotech Marine Vortech MP40s. It runs off of Neptune Apex, so I have the whole Apex digital controller to automate everything. I have two Ecotech Radions. We have two Neptune pumps, DOS pumps. I have a big heater in this, a 1,000-watt heater. I do not like temperature fluctuation, and when it changes, I like it to be resolved quickly. I have battery backups on the circulation pumps, the MP40s, as well as a ABC battery backup and two Neptune auto feeders. So over here you can see the aquarium controller. I only run these Ecotechs at 40% speed, and they do go to a battery backup over here. And then when you pop this cover, you can see the two feeders, pellet, flake, and I do a live food. These are daily at noon, every day at 12 p.m., every day at 6 p.m., just a little bit of flake. And then I usually do live feedings 2 to 3 times per week. And then if you look up in there, you can see the Radions right there. I'm gonna go ahead and go under, and you can kind of see how they do their thing. But this is the aquarium. You can, see we don't do anything crazy with coral. We got a leather back here, which is shut up because the fish were aggravating it. We have this big guy, which I recently moved here. It was just getting so high, it was getting near the water. I have some cool mushrooms there in the back, some mushrooms here on the ground. I love the GSP. It grows like a weed. At one point, it was all up on the back wall, but I pulled it down, and you can see it's starting to grow again on the back wall. Various fish, anywhere from a yellow tang all the way down to that guy in there, to clownfish, to cardinals. A pretty big cleanup crew is in the tank as well. So there's lots of cool things happening in here. Let's pop the bottom and take a peek. And I will cut some lights on, so bear with me. So this is a fully automated reef tank because I travel a lot. So the feeding's happening. I have a big reservoir with my ATO for automatic top-offs. And this is the Apex interface, which I absolutely love because, as an example, I can just go in here and I can cut on various things if I'm remote. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the sump lights on, and you can see some lights inside came on. So that spotlight there is for the different stuff I grow in the sump. You can see the return pump over here. If you look straight down there, that's also the water sensors for the automatic top-off, as well as probes for my salt level, 2 temperature probes as well, and pH. Admittedly, I do not calibrate those anywhere near the frequency I should, but they seem pretty stable. Then I have my Reef Octopus skimmer. It's a big one sitting in here. Down there is where we also have the pump that goes to the chiller. And moving along, you can see various equipment under here for the MP40s, the core return pump, the ATO, the actual Neptune. This is the old school Neptune stuff when it was metal. I keep these Ziplocs hanging just to try to keep salt creep down because it happens. And admittedly, when I started this tank, I was so picky about how things looked under here. But after 6 years, stuff broke, I had to run cables, it gets dusty, you get busy. I still think it's very organized, but it used to look like artwork. And now it looks like a daily reef aquarium that I use. So that is the guts underneath the tank. So people ask me, well, how do you feed them? I touched a bit on how we actually use the auto feeders. And the lights cut on full by 10 a.m. They ramp up, and then they start going into moonlight and whatnot around 6:30 p.m. So I get, I would say, a good 8 hours of higher light. These are very heavy-duty Radion. I think they're the XP40W is what they're called. I think I'm running them at 50% right now. If I turned these up to 100%, it would just scorch this tank. I'm less concerned about some of the algae you see in here. It's nothing bad, there's no aptasia, but this is a Triton method, meaning I send the results to a company in California who ultimately sends them to Germany, I believe, and then Triton sends back a report. Every quarter, I do a Triton test, and I adjust based on what they need. So you may be wondering what's over here. That is a chiller that I have. Right now, the tank is running 78.1 degrees according to the Neptune. And when I like to keep my tank in at 78 degrees. I'm very picky. So this will cut on and do its thing. And even in the winter, even if it doesn't need to chill, I cut that return pump on once a day that feeds the chiller just to keep that water circulation through the lines. I only have the cover off under the steps because this thing does emit a lot of heat, and I like the heat to just blow under the steps. That is a APC battery backup. It does not, the biggest thing is for surging. It helps with my surge jumps that occur, and it will power the core things I need, like the return pump and a wave maker for like 10 to 15 minutes very easily. And then I have the Ecotech pump battery for the Ecotech Marine MP40s, which give me hours of usage. I've never had a power issue in my 6 years of having this tank. These here are where I store the Triton method, chemicals that you put in, the base 1, the base 2. You can see it's running a little low there, the base 3A. You can see the chiller just kicked on, even though it's the fall here. Inside of this is where I hide all of the dosers. So those are all sitting right in there. So that's how it's actually pouring the chemical with the pumps into the tank. All of those lines run against the back wall. You can see the Radion power supplies underneath. So I know, if these require a lot of space, the Radions. You don't want to try to even squeeze those under the tank because they will emit a fair bit of heat. And then in this little bin, I hide a 5-gallon bucket. And that 5-gallon bucket is why I keep extra water. And you can see this detects when the water has about 1.5 gallons left, I get an email. So I can refill it because I don't want to get an email when it's just empty. So even if I get a notification saying it's low, I still have at least a day or two, depending on the weather, to refill. All of that's kind of hidden under my steps to the extent it can be. So when you walk in the house, it doesn't look as noticeable with the actual reef tank up here. So again, this is Jason. This is my 100-gallon deep sea aquatics tank. It's a lot of work to set up. But since I don't have any crazy SPS or coral, it's actually pretty easy to maintain, and it's a lot of fun. It looks cool in the house. It's like living artwork. I have various fish in here, good growth on the coral I have, and it looks really nice at night when the blues come on, stimulating that sunset and moonlight. So basically, this is the entryway of the house. Right when you walk in, the tank sits there. It's pretty quiet. It's not that loud. At night, I cut all the pumps down a bit so it gets even quieter at night. But thanks for tuning in. I'll put a list of the equipment I have. By no means am I trying to act like I'm some aquarium pro, but I believe for a 6-year-old tank, it's doing pretty awesome. And it's on Triton method, no water changes. Let me elaborate on that. What does that mean? Let's hop over and look at my setup for Triton real quick. So if you go in here, you're gonna see this is why I keep everything to actually manage Triton. So I make my own RODI water. This is the 6-stage Buff Reek Supply 150 gallon a day system. I make all the water, but more importantly, all of my Triton chemicals that I need. I don't use that GFO anymore, but you get things like this, and they'll tell you how much to add. How much more nickel do you need? How much more magnesium do you need? And you specifically apply, like science, exactly for what it's calling for. So with the Triton method, you send in a report, they'll send back to you a notification saying, hey, this is exactly what you need to do to your tank to make it mimic the ocean. And you add it one by one. I used to do it every month. My tank is so stable, I do it every quarter. And I make slight adjustments and everything's good to go. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this is a fun video to watch as you begin, or maybe you currently are in the Reef Aquarium hobby. I enjoy it, my son enjoys it, and once this tank is set up the way it is right now, it's kind of set it and forget it. Keep your water filled, keep your chemicals in there, take a measurement, scrape the glass every week. You're all good to go. And you can see the yellow tang decided to come out. A lot of these fish really love the crevices we have and the caves and the rocks, and they just kind of hide. But he decided to come out, and that's a 6-year-old tang, and the clowns are 6, and everything else is a little bit younger. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.